When a woman reaches 70, one of the most liberating realizations she can embrace is the idea that chasing fashion and beauty trends no longer makes sense. Throughout life, society has bombarded women with messages about how they should look, dress, and present themselves. From glossy magazines to television ads and now social media feeds, there has always been an unspoken pressure to keep up, to fit in, to appear younger, slimmer, more glamorous. For decades, many women follow these shifting rules, adjusting their wardrobes and routines in an attempt to meet standards that seem to change almost overnight. Yet at 70, the endless cycle of fashion fads and beauty expectations begins to lose its power. It is not because older women cannot look stylish or beautiful, but because the energy, money, and self-worth invested in chasing these trends no longer align with the deeper priorities of life. Fashion trends are designed to keep people in constant pursuit, moving the target just as soon as they think they have caught it. One year, the world declares that short skirts are the ultimate sign of style. The next it insists that long, flowing dresses are what every woman must own. Hair colors change, makeup styles evolve, and what was considered elegant last season is declared outdated in the next. For a woman in her 70s, this constant chase feels tiring rather than exciting. With wisdom gathered over decades, she can see that the real beauty lies not in following, but in choosing what makes her feel comfortable, confident, and authentic. Comfort becomes a higher priority than conformity. Clothes that pinch, shoes that hurt, or routines that take hours to maintain lose their charm. At this age, it is far more rewarding to put on a soft sweater that feels like a warm hug or slip into shoes that support every step than to force oneself into outfits chosen only because they are in fashion. Comfort does not mean giving up on style, it means redefining it. Many women in their 70s discover that their personal style shines brightest once they stop listening to external voices. Whether it is a preference for calm neutral tones or a love for bold, joyful colors, the key is that the choice is made for themselves, not for approval. There is also the financial cost to consider. Chasing trends often means spending money on clothes that will be worn only once, buying makeup that sits unused in drawers, or even undergoing expensive cosmetic procedures in a desperate attempt to stay relevant. After 70, many women recognize that this cycle is not worth the sacrifice. That money, energy, and attention are better invested in experiences that bring real joy, travel, hobbies, spending time with grandchildren, or simply enjoying peaceful days at home. At this stage, it becomes clear that true beauty cannot be bought in a store. It comes from within, shaped by kindness, resilience, and the glow of a life well lived. Allowing oneself to age gracefully becomes an act of strength. Wrinkles, silver hair, and even the slower pace of movement are not flaws to be hidden, but symbols of experience. Each line on the face tells a story of laughter, of tears, of perseverance. Hair that turns silver is not a defeat but a crown of wisdom. Instead of desperately dyeing roots every few weeks or buying into anti-aging fads, many women embrace these natural signs of time as badges of honor. And in doing so, they send a powerful message to the world. Beauty does not belong to the young alone, it belongs to anyone who carries themselves with confidence and authenticity. There is also joy in simplicity. Chasing trends often clutters life, filling closets with clothes that bring little satisfaction and shelves with products that promise more than they deliver. By stepping away from this cycle, life becomes lighter. A smaller wardrobe filled with beloved, comfortable pieces is far more rewarding than a closet bursting with clothes that never quite feel right. Fewer possessions mean less stress and more peace. This simplicity mirrors the overall wisdom of age, that happiness is not about abundance, but about balance. True beauty at 70 is no longer defined by how perfectly one matches a magazine spread. It is defined by how one carries themselves, how they treat others, and how much light they bring into the spaces they enter. A warm smile is more attractive than any lipstick shade, gentle eyes that sparkle with kindness outshine any makeup trend, and hands that have nurtured families and created memories are far more beautiful than the manicured hands of an advertisement. Letting go of the chase allows women to redefine beauty on their own terms, without apology. Fashion and beauty, when pursued for self-expression rather than approval, can still bring joy. The difference lies in intention. Dressing up no longer has to mean impressing others, it can mean celebrating who you are. If a 70-year-old woman loves vibrant patterns or flowing scarves, she can wear them proudly. If she prefers quiet elegance, that too becomes her signature style. By choosing clothes, hairstyles, and routines that reflect her true self rather than society's expectations, she reclaims her identity. Perhaps most importantly, letting go of fashion and beauty trends frees up energy, emotional, mental, and physical, that can now be directed toward what truly matters. Instead of worrying about the latest hairstyle or shopping for clothes that will soon go out of style, time can be spent walking in the garden, reading favorite books, practicing faith, or laughing with loved ones. These are the moments that bring lasting joy and peace, far more than a fleeting compliment on an outfit. Finally, there is the legacy this choice leaves behind. Younger women often look to older generations for guidance, consciously or unconsciously. When they see a woman who no longer chases trends but instead embraces herself fully, they learn a powerful lesson. Confidence and self-love are the greatest beauty secrets of all. By modeling authenticity, older women give permission to younger ones to stop comparing themselves and start living more freely. Letting go of chasing fashion and beauty trends after 70 is not about giving up. It is about breaking free. Free from pressure, free from unnecessary expenses, and free from the weight of trying to be someone you are not. It is a shift from external expectations to internal peace, from shallow beauty to true radiance. And in that freedom, a woman's natural beauty shines brighter than ever, not because she fits into society's mold, but because she finally lives comfortably and confidently as herself. When a woman reaches 70, one of the most valuable lessons she can embrace is the wisdom of avoiding toxic and draining relationships. At this stage of life, time becomes more precious than ever, and peace of mind outweighs almost every other priority. In earlier decades, many women tolerated difficult people out of duty, fear of judgment, or the hope that things would change. They endured unkind relatives, manipulative friends, critical partners, or demanding acquaintances because walking away felt too complicated or too selfish. But by 70, the picture is clearer. Carrying the weight of toxic connections no longer makes sense. A life that should be filled with calm, health, and meaningful joy cannot thrive if it is constantly being clouded by the negativity of others. Toxic relationships are not always obvious, and that is what makes them so draining. Sometimes they arrive disguised as family members who make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. Sometimes they are friends who only come around when they need something but disappear when you are the one in need. Other times, they are people who constantly criticize, belittle, or bring you down with negativity. The result is the same. You leave those encounters feeling exhausted, hurt, or smaller than you were before. At 70, these feelings take a heavier toll because emotional strain directly impacts physical health. Stress weakens the body, disrupts sleep, and steals energy that could have been used for joy and wellness. Choosing to step away from toxic relationships is not about cruelty, it is about survival and self-respect. One of the greatest gifts of age is clarity. By 70, a woman often knows how to recognize the red flags she might have ignored in her youth. She knows that relationships should not feel one-sided, that true companions celebrate your victories instead of competing with you, and that love should never come wrapped in disrespect. She understands that anyone who consistently drains her joy is not someone who deserves close access to her heart. It is not always easy to admit that certain bonds are harmful, especially if they involve family members, but wisdom teaches that blood is not a free pass for cruelty. Respect, kindness, and support are what make relationships worthwhile, not titles or obligations. Setting boundaries becomes a central act of self-care. For some women, This may mean limiting visits with a relative who only criticizes or stirs conflict. For others, it may mean letting go of a longtime friend who never truly offered friendship but only used the bond for personal gain. Boundaries can be as simple as saying no to activities that feel overwhelming, refusing to answer calls that bring only negativity, or deciding that peace is more important than appearances. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters that allow love in while keeping toxicity out. At 70, a woman has nothing left to prove and every reason to protect the serenity she has worked a lifetime to build. Of course, letting go of toxic relationships does not mean shutting oneself off from connection. In fact, clearing away harmful people creates room for nourishing ones. When negative voices fade, there is space for healthier bonds, friends who listen without judgment, neighbors who bring laughter, grandchildren who offer love without conditions. These are the connections worth nurturing. Healthy relationships do not demand endless energy, they replenish it. They leave you feeling lighter, valued, and supported. Surrounding yourself with people who add joy rather than steal it is one of the wisest choices a woman can make at this stage. Forgiveness also plays a role in this process. Avoiding toxic people does not mean carrying bitterness forever. Holding on to resentment only keeps the wound alive, and it weighs down the spirit. Forgiving does not mean welcoming harmful people back into your life. It means releasing their power over you. Forgiveness at 70 is less about them and more about you, about setting yourself free to enjoy the years you have left without the shadow of old pain. Some women fear that cutting off draining relationships will leave them lonely, but solitude is far better than toxic company. There is a profound difference between being alone and being lonely. Solitude can be nourishing when chosen intentionally. A peaceful afternoon spent reading, gardening, praying, or simply resting can be far more fulfilling than hours spent in the presence of people who criticize and deplete you. Choosing solitude over toxicity is not a loss, it is a gain of peace. It is important to remember that the effects of toxic relationships are not only emotional but also physical. Studies have shown that chronic stress from negative relationships can raise blood pressure, weaken the heart, and shorten lifespan. At 70, the body is more sensitive to these pressures. Protecting health means protecting the mind from unnecessary turmoil. Replacing draining interactions with calm, laughter, and love becomes an act of medicine as much as an act of wisdom. Life after 70 should be about joy, not survival. Relationships should be measured not by their length but by the quality they bring. A short but genuine connection is far more valuable than decades of tension. Every person in your circle should add warmth to your life, whether it is a grandchild who makes you smile, a friend who listens without judgment, or a companion who shares quiet moments. The goal is not to have a large circle, but to have a meaningful one. By choosing to avoid toxic and draining relationships, a woman also leaves behind a powerful example for younger generations. Daughters, granddaughters, and nieces are watching, and they learn through observation. When they see a woman who prioritizes peace over pressure, who walks away from negativity without guilt, they learn that self-respect is not selfishness, it is strength. The message passed down is clear. Love should never require suffering, and a peaceful heart is more valuable than forced company. At 70, every day becomes a gift, every moment a chance to live with dignity and joy. Toxic relationships, with their heavy clouds, no longer have a place in this chapter. The wise woman recognizes that her health, her happiness, and her serenity are priceless, and she guards them carefully. Avoiding those who drain her energy is not a rejection of love, it is an embrace of life itself. One of the most liberating lessons a woman can embrace after 70 is the freedom that comes from no longer living for the approval of others. For much of life, approval seems like a currency of acceptance. As little girls, women are praised when they behave quietly, when they dress a certain way, when they sacrifice their own wants to please others. As teenagers, approval shifts to appearance and fitting into peer expectations. As adults, it often becomes about fulfilling roles, being the good daughter, the patient wife, the perfect mother, the reliable friend, the competent employee. Approval becomes the invisible thread pulling at every decision, creating a pattern of living not entirely your own. Yet, with the gift of age comes the clarity that approval from others is fleeting and unreliable, while approval from yourself is the only kind that can bring peace. Seeking approval from others can feel endless, like running on a treadmill that never stops. People's expectations change constantly. What pleases someone today may irritate them tomorrow. One person may admire you for your choices, another may criticize you for the very same thing. Living for approval keeps you in a state of restlessness, always trying to mold yourself into someone else's ideal. By 70, many women realize that they have spent too much time trying to fit into other people's definitions of good, respectable, or successful. The wisdom of experience teaches that the only standard worth meeting is the one you set for yourself. Releasing the need for approval does not mean abandoning love or connection, it means living with authenticity. When you stop chasing validation, you begin to discover what truly matters to you. You may choose to wear the clothes that feel comfortable rather than what others say looks flattering. You may pursue hobbies that make you happy even if others don't understand them. You may finally allow yourself to speak your truth without worrying about whether it will please or upset someone. Living authentically brings a deep sense of relief. It means that every choice, big or small, reflects who you really are rather than who others want you to be. The cost of approval seeking is not only emotional but also mental. Constantly worrying about others' opinions creates anxiety and robs confidence. Many women reflect on their younger years and see that some of their biggest regrets came from decisions made to satisfy others rather than themselves. Staying in unfulfilling jobs, silencing dreams, or tolerating relationships that drained them often stemmed from fear of disapproval. At 70, the urgency of time makes it clear that there is no room left for regrets of that kind. What remains is the choice to honor yourself, even if it means disappointing others. This stage of life offers the gift of redefining success. For much of the journey, success may have been measured by achievements, recognition, or how well others perceived you. But at 70, success takes on a gentler, wiser form. Success is waking up with gratitude. Success is maintaining health and peace of mind. Success is enjoying meaningful moments with loved ones. Success is being able to look in the mirror and like the person you see, not for her youth or perfection, but for her resilience, authenticity, and courage to live on her own terms. An important part of rejecting approval seeking is learning to say no without guilt. For years, women are taught to say yes out of obligation, fearing that refusal will bring rejection or disappointment. But each yes given against your will chips away at your own well-being. By 70, it becomes clear that every yes to others is also a no to yourself if it does not align with your values or needs. Saying no becomes an act of self-preservation, a declaration that your time and energy are valuable. And surprisingly, once you start saying no with confidence, you find that the world does not collapse. Those who truly care about you respect your boundaries, and those who don't are not worth bending for. Another joy that comes from letting go of approval seeking is the freedom of self-expression. Many women spend their younger years hiding parts of themselves to fit into molds. They silence opinions to keep the peace, suppress passions that might seem frivolous, or tone down their personalities to avoid judgment. At 70, the fear begins to fade. There is a newfound boldness in dressing with colors you love, laughing loudly when something is funny, or finally taking up painting, dancing, or writing just because it makes you happy. The opinions of others lose their grip, and life feels lighter because you no longer carry the burden of performing for someone else's satisfaction. Approval still has a place, but it shifts to healthier sources. Instead of chasing approval from society, strangers, or critical relatives, you begin to seek approval within yourself and from those who truly matter. A smile from a grandchild, the gratitude of a close friend, or the quiet peace you feel in your own heart becomes more valuable than any outside praise. The question changes from, "Do they like me?" to, "Do I like the life I am living?" That shift alone is a source of deep contentment. Living for self-approval creates confidence that radiates naturally. When a woman at 70 walks into a room fully at ease with herself, people notice. There is no need for pretenses or exaggerated performances. Confidence rooted in authenticity is magnetic because it is rare. Younger people see it and feel inspired, not because of flawless appearance but because of the courage to be real. And that becomes one of the greatest gifts older women can offer, the reminder that authenticity is more beautiful than perfection. Perhaps the most meaningful part of letting go of approval seeking is the legacy it leaves. The younger women in your life, daughters, granddaughters, nieces, watch how you live, even in the small details. When they see that you no longer bend yourself to please everyone, they learn that they too can stand tall. When they see you say no without guilt, they learn that their boundaries matter. When they see you living authentically, they learn that happiness does not come from being admired, but from being true to yourself. This unspoken lesson may be one of the greatest inheritances you leave behind, far more valuable than material possessions. At 70, every day is too precious to waste on the shifting opinions of others. You are no longer the girl who needs to be praised for good behavior, nor the young woman judged by appearances, nor the mother trying to meet everyone's expectations. You are a whole person who has lived through triumphs and challenges, who has carried love and loss, who has earned the right to live freely. Stopping the chase for approval is not about closing yourself off from people. It is about stepping into the fullness of who you are, without apology. The freedom lies in this simple truth. You no longer need the world to clap for you in order to feel alive. You only need to embrace yourself, exactly as you are, and find joy in living authentically. And in that moment, you discover that the greatest approval of all has been within you all along. As the years pass and a woman enters her 70s, one of the clearest truths becomes that health must take precedence over busyness. For much of life, many women are conditioned to measure their worth by how much they do, how much they give, and how many roles they juggle at once. A full calendar, endless responsibilities, and the constant rush of activity often seemed like proof of being needed, useful, and successful. But at 70, that old definition of value begins to lose its power. The body speaks more clearly now, demanding care, rest, and attention. The heart seeks peace rather than pressure, and the mind longs for clarity rather than clutter. Busyness, which once felt like a badge of honor, reveals itself as a thief of energy, a subtle enemy to health, and a distraction from what truly matters. There is wisdom in slowing down. At this stage, the human body does not recover from exhaustion as quickly as it once did. Staying up late to finish tasks, pushing through fatigue to please others, or running from one obligation to another can leave lingering consequences, aches, illness, or a weariness that takes days to recover from. Health becomes fragile, and protecting it requires deliberate choices. No task, no favor, no obligation is worth sacrificing the balance and wellness of the body. It is no longer about how much gets done in a day but about whether the day leaves you feeling nourished rather than depleted. In youth, the pressure to stay busy often comes from external expectations, family, work, or society's standards of productivity. But in later life, much of that pressure is internal. Some women fear that slowing down makes them less relevant, less valuable, or somehow lazy. Yet the truth is, choosing health over busyness is not a sign of weakness but of strength. It takes courage to step away from the constant demand to prove yourself and instead honor your body's needs. It takes wisdom to say, "My peace matters more than pleasing others," or, "My rest is as important as my responsibilities." This is not selfishness, it is self-preservation. Health at 70 is not just physical, it is also emotional and mental. The stress of overcommitment does not simply tire the body, it clouds the mind and weighs down the spirit. Women who try to do too much often find themselves anxious, irritable, or overwhelmed. That kind of constant mental strain can damage memory, disturb sleep, and even contribute to serious health problems. Protecting health means protecting the mind from unnecessary pressure. It means allowing space for calm, reflection, and joy rather than constantly rushing to keep busy. This shift in priorities also redefines what productivity means. For many years, productivity was measured by how many tasks could be checked off a list. But after 70, productivity takes a gentler form. A quiet walk in the garden is productive because it nourishes both body and soul. Sitting in the sunlight with a book is productive because it rests the mind and brings pleasure. Spending time with grandchildren, meditating, praying, or simply enjoying a cup of tea without hurry is productive because it adds value to life, not just activity. Productivity no longer means being busy, it means doing what sustains your well-being. Slowing down to prioritize health also opens the door to more intentional living. Instead of racing through each day with a sense of urgency, there is time to savor moments, to notice beauty, and to be present with loved ones. Busyness often steals these opportunities by filling life with distractions. When health becomes the focus, every choice is weighed with the question, does this bring me peace, joy, or strength, or does it drain me? This simple shift leads to a life that feels fuller even with fewer obligations. Letting go of busyness can sometimes be challenging, especially when others still expect you to give as much as you always have. Family members may lean on you for childcare, friends may ask for favors, or community groups may want your time. Helping others is still meaningful, but it must be balanced with care for yourself. Saying yes to every request may please others for a moment, but it steals energy that your body needs. At 70, you have earned the right to say no when necessary. A gentle refusal is not a rejection of love but an affirmation of your health. There is also an important link between physical activity and health. Prioritizing health does not mean avoiding all exertion, it means choosing movement that sustains you rather than drains you. Gentle exercise like walking, stretching, yoga, or swimming can strengthen the body without overstraining it. These activities are not about burning calories or keeping up with others but about maintaining flexibility, balance, and strength. They support independence and vitality in daily life, allowing you to continue doing the things you love. This kind of intentional movement is far more valuable than running yourself ragged with endless tasks that only leave you tired. Nutrition, rest, and self-care also take on a greater role when health is the priority. Preparing nourishing meals, taking time to rest, scheduling medical checkups, and paying attention to emotional needs are not luxuries but essentials. Busyness often pushes these practices aside, but at 70, they must come first. A healthy body supports a clear mind, and a clear mind brings peace. Choosing to prioritize these things ensures that the years ahead are lived with strength rather than struggle. The shift from busyness to health is also spiritual in nature. Many women find that as they age, they are drawn toward reflection, prayer, or a deeper connection with the divine. Busyness can be a barrier to this because constant activity leaves little room for stillness. When health is prioritized, there is more space for quiet moments of gratitude, for spiritual growth, and for connecting with what truly lasts beyond time. This nourishment of the soul is just as important as caring for the body. Ultimately, choosing health over busyness is about reclaiming life. At 70, each day is a precious gift. Spending it in constant motion to meet endless expectations only steals its richness. But spending it in ways that honor your body, bring joy to your heart, and feed your soul ensures that the later years are filled with dignity, strength, and fulfillment. Busyness may impress others, but health allows you to actually enjoy the time you have. It allows you to walk in the garden, laugh with loved ones, and greet each day with gratitude rather than exhaustion. The wise woman knows that she no longer has to measure her worth by how busy she is. Her worth is already proven in the life she has lived, the love she has given, and the wisdom she carries. Now her task is not to run faster but to walk more gently, not to do more but to live more fully. Health is the foundation of this final chapter, and prioritizing it is the greatest act of self-love she can offer herself and those who cherish her.